Elon Musk is a trillionaire now, and yet you still believe in scarcity? The logic that underpins modern capitalist societies begins from the premise that resources are limited and humans are fundamentally self-interested. It's the rational economic man, the assumption that everyone acts solely in the pursuit of their own interests. So if everyone's out for themselves, why would anyone take care of something they don't own? People have a tendency to assume the worst in humanity. They don't trust their neighbors, they see life as a dog-eat-dog world. But what if this rational economic man is just one story we tell ourselves about ourselves, one that's become mistaken for common sense? In a society that transactionalizes everything, another way of relating is possible, one not based on ownership, but on reciprocity, gratitude, and gift. In a world that's understood as a collection of commodities to be owned and exploited, Indigenous author and botanist Robin Wall Kimmerer encourages us to ask, what would happen if we treated the earth instead as a gift? Consider the difference between a sweater you bought from H&M and an ugly handmade sweater knit by your grandma. The latter might be objectively uglier and less useful, but you're likely to cherish it much more. Not because of the object itself, but because of the relationship it represents. Whenever you look at that sweater, you're reminded of the person who spent hours of their life making it for you. And because you recognize all that went into the creation of this sweater, you feel an obligation to care for it. And in a hyper-individualistic society that's allergic to responsibility, it's this gift economy that's essential to healing the planet from rampant extractive capitalism. In her book The Serviceberry, Kimmerer imagines a world in which abundance circulates through relationships rather than accumulating through ownership. In a serviceberry economy, she writes, I accept the gift from the tree, then spread that gift around. With a dish of berries to my neighbor who makes a pie to share with his friend, who feels so wealthy in food and friendship that he volunteers at the food pantry. Abundance in this model isn't hoarded and depleted, but multiplied through relationality. In contrast, she writes, if I were to buy a basket of berries in a market economy, the relationship ends with the exchange of money. There's no making of community, only a trading of commodities. This is similar to Marx's idea of commodity fetishism, where he argues that capitalism transforms social relationships into relationships between commodities, as it conceals the labor and social relations that produce them. Consumers see berries in a store, but they don't see the bee that pollinated it, the bird that dispersed its seeds, the farmer that picked it. The exchange is not between you and the farmer. You don't even think about who that is, but rather between your credit card and the box of berries. This obfuscation of social relationships that go into the commodity creation generates a distance and thus apathy towards things deemed commodities. And when we extend this idea onto the commodification of the earth, we can see how under a capitalist system, the land is treated as a market resource to be purchased, privately owned, and ultimately plundered. Kimmerer writes that if we think of the earth as a big warehouse of commodities, as mere objects, we claim a kind of privilege to exploit what we believe we own. In that property mindset, how we consume doesn't really matter because it's just stuff and all that stuff belongs to us. There's no moral constraint on consumption. But what if we saw the earth as a gift? What obligations would that compel? Indeed, in the worldview of land as gift, where the givers are some ones and not some things, the consumers confront a moral dilemma. The logic that underpins capitalism is one of scarcity that is said to necessitate greed and selfishness. And yet the scarcity only exists because those at the top take selfishly with no regard for the well-being of others. By granting exchange and reciprocity and mutual care, feelings of scarcity diminish and a sense of sufficiency is fostered, where people feel inclined to take only what they need. Indeed, what do we owe each other? We all want nice things. We want beautiful parks and clean bathrooms, and yet we pollute our waters and don't clean the piss off our seats. Commodification severs relationships, but we need to remember that this is just an illusion of independence. There's a symbiosis at every single level of living things, and you cannot compete in a zero-sum game with creatures upon whom your existence depends. And humans are no exception to this. All flourishing is mutual.